Hello everyone, how are you? I hope everything is good with you and your family. Now today we are going to do chapter number 7, packing, from your book. Before you read, do you like going on trips? What kind of trips do you enjoy most? How do you feel about having to pack for a trip? Have you ever discovered on a trip that you have forgotten to pack a few things you very much need or that you can't find them easily? Does this make you angry or does it make you laugh at yourself? Now read this description of how the author and his friends pack. I said I would pack, so I here is used for a Jerome, and Jerome declares that he would like to pack luggage for trips and he is going to do packing. I rather pride myself on my packing. Packing is one of those many things that I feel I know more about than any other person living. It surprises me myself sometimes how many such things there are. I impressed the fact upon George and Harris and told them that they had better leave the whole matter entirely to me. They fell into the suggestion with a readiness that had something uncanny about it. George spread himself over the easy chair and Harris cocked his leg on the table. Now, in the first paragraph, Jerome thought that his ability to pack luggage is better than others. He asked his friends George and Harris to leave the task of packing to him, and even the two friends agreed to his suggestion instantly without creating any problem. George sat comfortably on the easy chair and Harris bent his knees as he sat on the sofa and kept his feet on the table. This was hardly what I intended. What I meant, of course, was that I should boss the job and that Harris and George should potter about under my directions. Potter about means to do unimportant things. I pushing them aside every now and then. Oh, you, here, let me do it. There you are, simple enough, really teaching them, as you might say. They are taking it in the way they did irritated me. There is nothing does irritate me more than seeing other people sitting about doing nothing when I am working. So he is saying that in the second paragraph, by saying that he would pack, the writer did not mean that his friends would sit and relax and he is doing all the work. He had meant that he would boss upon them and relax while he would be doing the work. He would nag them and curse them for not doing the things properly, and he would also give them suggestions and to clear the mess created by them. And even he is irritated to see his friends sitting idle while he is doing all the work. I lived with a man once who used to make me mad that way. He would loll on the sofa and watch me doing things by the hour together. He said it did him real good to look on at me messing about. Now I am not like that. I can't sit still and see another man slaving and working. I want to get up and superintend and walk around with my hands in my pocket and tell him what to do. It is my energetic nature. I can't help it. So now the writer recollects that once he lived with a man who would sit lazily on the sofa all day through and would watch the writer to do all the work. The man would say that he enjoyed watching him go around doing all the work. This would make writer mad with anger. The writer adds that he could not sit idle and watch others work like slaves. On the other hand, he liked to check their work, walk around with his hands in his pocket and direct them on how to do the work properly. He feels that he was energetic and it was a part of his nature to behave in that manner. However, I did not say anything but started the packing. It seemed a longer job than I had thought it was going to be, but I got the bag finished at last and sat on it and strapped it. Aren't you going to put the boots in? Said Harris, and I looked around and found I had forgotten them. That's just like Harris. He could not have said a word until I would cut the bag shut and strap, of course. And George laughed on those irritating, senseless laughs of his. They do make me so wild. Now, the writer is saying that the writer did not say anything to his friend packing. As he closed the bag, Harris said that he had forgotten to pack his boot. The writer felt that Horace could have reminded him before he could close the bag. But he thought that Harris was just like that, and this was followed by irritating laughter by George, which made him more wild with anger. I opened the bag and packed the boots in, and then just as I was going to close it, a horrible idea occurred to me. Had I packed my toothbrush? I don't know it is, but I never do know whatever I have packed my toothbrush. Now Jerome opened the bag to keep the boots in. As he was about to close the bag, he was struck by a strange thought that had he packed his toothbrush or not. He says that he never remembers if he has packed the toothbrush or not. My toothbrush is a thing that haunts me when I am traveling and make my life a misery. I dream that I haven't packed it and wake up in a cold perspiration and got out of bed and hunt for it. And in the morning I packed it before I have used it and have to unpack again to get it. And it is always the last thing I turn out of the bag, and then I repack and forgot it and have to rush upstairs for it at the last moment and carry it to the railway station wrapped up in my pocket handkerchief. So here writer describes about his habit. He says that while traveling he always mess up with carrying his toothbrush. He has nightmare of not having packed it. He wakes up in sweat and looks for it. In the morning he pack it before using it. Then he unpack the bag to get the toothbrush, use it, and it is the last thing that comes out of the bag, and he pack the bag. He forget packing it again. At the last moment he rushes to his room to get the brush, and finally he wraps it in his handkerchief and carries it to the railway station in his hand. Of course I had to turn every mortal thing out now, and of course I could not find it. I rummaged the things up into much the same state that way. Rummaged means searched in a hurried or in a careless way. Must have been before the world was created and when chaos reigns. Of course I found George and Harris 18 times over, but I could not find my own. I put the things back one and held everything up and soaked it. Then I found it inside a boot. I repacked once again. Now Jerome is saying that as he was looking for his toothbrush, he had to remove everything, but he could not find it back again. He created a mess. He found his friend's brush many times, but could not find his brush. He kept everything back into the bag one by one, shaking each item, and finally he got the brush inside a boot. Then once again he repacked the bag. When I had finished, George asked if the soap was in. I said, I don't care a hang whether the soap was in or whether it wasn't. I slammed the bag shut and strapped it and found that I had packed my spectacles in it and had to reopen it. I got shut finally at 10:05 p.m. and then there remained the hampers to do. Harry said that we should be wanting to start in less than 12 hours time and thought that George had better to do the rest, and I agreed and sat down and they had to go. So what happened now? Now when Jerome closed the bag, George asked if the soap was there in they keep the soap in it or not. As Jerome was impatient, and he replied that he did not care and he did not concern if the soap is inside or not. He just closed the bag and strapped it. Then he realized that he had put his spectacles in it and he had to reopen the bag again. Finally it was 10:05 p.m. when he finally packed the bag. But now they are left with the food basket. Harry said that as they were left with less than 12 hours to leave, they should pack the basket as well. Harris decided that the food basket would be packed by him and George. Now Jerome agreed to this and he turned for some rest, and while his friends started packing for the hamper basket. They began in a light-hearted spirit, evidently intending to show me how to do it. I made it no comment. I only waited, with the exception of George. Harris is the worst packer in this world. And I looked at the piles of plates and cups and kettles and bottles and jars and piles and stoves and cakes and tomatoes, etc., and felt that the things would soon become exciting. Now the writer is looking at them, how they are packing the things. George and Harry started packing the hampers in a very happy mood. They wanted to show Jerome actually how to do packing. So Jerome waited for them to create a mess because he considered Harris to be the worst packer in the world. Jerome looked at the piles of plates, cups, kettles, bottles, jars, piles, cakes and tomatoes which has to be kept in the hamper. He thought that as the boys would mess up and it would be an interesting thing to watch. It did. They started with breaking a cup. That was the first thing they did. They did that just to show you what they could do and to get you interested. Now what happened? The scene became interesting because they first started with breaking a cup. Jerome says that they broke the cup to indicate that they could do that too and make things interesting. Then Harris packed the strawberry jam on top of a tomato and squashed it. They had to pick out the tomato with a teaspoon. Now what happened? Harris just placed the jar of strawberry jam on the top of the tomatoes. The tomatoes were squeezed by the jar weight and they have to remove tomato with the help of a spoon. Then it was George's turn and he trod on the butter. I did not say anything, but I came over and sat on the edge of the table and watched them saw what they were doing. It irritated them more than anything I could have said. I felt that I made them nervous and excited, and they stepped on things and put things behind them and then could not find them when they wanted them. And they packed the pies at the bottom and put heavy things on the top. They smashed the pies in it. Now Harris says that next George stepped on the butter and Jerome remained silent, but he sat on the edge of the table and watching their actions. His silence irritated his friends and they became nervous and stepped on the things. They kept the things behind them later, and when they wanted them they could not find them. They placed the pies on the bottom and kept heavier things on them which smashed the pies. They upset salt over everything. As for the butter, I never saw two men do more with 1 and 2 pence worth of butter in my whole life than they did. After George had got it off his slipper, they tried to put it in the kettle. I would not go in, and what was in wouldn't come out. They did scrape it out of at last and put it down on a chair, and Harris sat on it, and it stuck to him, and they went looking for it all over the room. Now he is saying that the boys overturned the can of the salt on everything. Jerome says that they created a lot of confusion with the small piece of butter. He had not seen anyone create so much mess with butter that was worth 1 or 2 pence. George removed it from his slipper and tried to put it into the kettle. As he was unable to do that, he placed it on a chair. Harry sat on it. The butter stuck to him. He stood up, and both the boys went around the room looking for the piece of butter. I will take my oath. I put it down on that chair, said George, starting at the empty seat. George looked intently at the empty seat on which he had placed the butter a few minutes ago. He took an oath of truthfulness that he had placed it there not and it is just even 1 minute before. Then they started round the room again looking for it, and then they met again in the center and started at the one and other. Now once again they searched in the room for the butter, and they met in the middle of the room with empty-handed. "Most extraordinary thing I ever heard of," said George. "So mysterious," said Harris. Then George got round at the back of Harris and saw it. "Why, here it is all the time," he exclaimed indignantly. So now he is saying that the disappearance of the butter was the most amazing thing that he had known. Harris said that the disappearance of the butter was a mystery. George saw the butter sticking to Harris' back and said it had been there all this while. "Where?" cried Harris, spinning around. "Stand still, can't you?" roared George, flying after him. And they got it off and placed it in the teapot. Now Harris turned around and asked where it is. George flew to Harris' back and asked him to stand still. They removed the butter and packed it inside the teapot. Montmorency was in it all. Of course, Montmorency's ambition in life is to get in the way and be sworn at. If he can scream in anywhere where he particularly is not wanted, and be a perfect nuisance and make people mad and have things thrown at his head, and then he feels his day has not been wasted. Now here there is an entry of Montmorency's participation, and that is a pet dog of Jerome, and his aim to interrupt everyone and then got scolded for it. Jerome added that his pet dog's ambition is to twist all the things and create a mess and by angry people and get things thrown at him in return. He felt that he had utilized the day in a good way. To get somebody to stumble over it and curse him steadily for an hour is his highest aim and object, and when he has succeeded in accomplishing this, his conceit became quite unbearable. Now he is saying that Munsi's aim was to get people trip over him and scold him. By adding this, he felt that he had fulfilled his aim and would feel proud of his achievement. He came and sat down on things just when they were wanted to be packed, and he was labored under the fixed belief that whenever Harris or George reached out their hand for anything, it was his cold, damp nose that they wanted. He put his leg into the jam and he worried the teaspoon, and he pretended that the lemons were rats and got into the hamper and killed 3 of them before Harris could land him with the frying pan. Now he is saying that his pet dog sat on the things to be packed. He thought that when George and Harris reached out for the things to be packed, they were reaching out for his cold, wet nose and would bring it forward to him. And he just even stepped on the jam bottle and he shook the teaspoon and he acted like lemons were a rat and stepped into the hamper to kill these rats. And he was stopped by Harris, who hit him with a frying pan. Harris said, "I encouraged him. I did not encourage him. A dog like that does not want any encouragement. It is the natural original sin that is born in him and that makes him to do things like that." Now Harris blamed Jerome for encouraging dog for doing all this mischief, but Jerome says that he did not encourage his dog to do these things, and a dog like him did not need any encouragement. It was born to be like that and act like that. The packing was done at 12:50 and Harris sat on the big hamper and said he hoped nothing would be found broken. George said that if anything was broken, it was broken, which reflection comforted him. He said he was ready for bed. We were all ready for bed. Harris was to sleep with us that night and we went upstairs. Now it is the last moment. At 12:50 they had packed the hamper. Harris sat on it and said that hopefully nothing would broken in it. And George was indifferent and said that if something broken I don't care. As they were ready for the bed they went upstairs to sleep. We tossed for bed and Harris had to sleep with me. He said, do you prefer the inside or outside? I said I generally prefer to sleep inside a bed. Harris said, it was odd. George said, what time shall I wake you fellows? Harris said, 7. I said, no, 6 because I wanted to write some letters. So here we come to know that as they settled in their beds, Harris asked Jerome if he preferred the inside or the outside of the bed. Jerome said that he preferred to sleep on the inside of the bed, and this seemed strange to Harris. George asked him that he should wake them up at what time. Harris replied 7, while Jerome wanted to wake up at 6 as he had to write some letters. Harris said, I had a bit of row over it, but at last split the differences and said 6:30. So what was that now? At the last moment, Harris and Jerome had a discussion on the time, and finally they settled on 6:30, each accommodating his time by half an hour. So they just settled their issue with this. George made no answer, and we found on going over that and he had been asleep for some time. So we placed the bath where he could tumble into it on getting out in the morning and went to the bed ourselves. Now he is saying that George did not respond as he was sleeping. Harris and George made mischief. They just did a mischievous act by placing the bathtub next to George's bed so that he would fall into it as he woke up, and pretext that he would not have to take a walk. As soon as he wake up, he will get a bath automatically. So I hope you understood this chapter, and in today's online class your teacher will discuss the question answers of this chapter. Till the time, stay safe, stay at home. Thank you.